Everything looked normal that evening. It wasn't. Jessamine Oku had been an emergency medical technician for 17 years. She had run codes. She had been in back seats of ambulances with people whose hearts were stopping and had known, before the monitor confirmed it, what was happening. She had calibrated her perception to the specific wavelength of emergency, and she trusted that calibration the way you trust a tool that has not failed you. The tool did not catch what was happening to her that Tuesday evening. Brix did. Brix was a mixed-breed shepherd dog they had adopted 3 years ago from a rural shelter in Georgia. The shelter paperwork listed him as a shepherd mix, approximately 6 years old, no documented history. He was 64 pounds with a brindle coat, one ear that stood and one that folded, and eyes the color of old amber. He had arrived in their home as an older dog with an older dog's settled quality. None of the developmental chaos of a puppy, just a full presence that had inserted itself into their household and remained there. He was particularly attentive to Jessamine. Her husband Kwame had noticed it early, the way Brix tracked her movements through the house, the way he chose, when given options, to be near her. They had attributed it to the bonding period. 3 years later it remained true, and they had stopped attributing it to anything. That Tuesday, Jessamine had been home from a shift for 3 hours. She had eaten. She had bathed their 2-year-old daughter Zara. She was on the living room floor with Zara working a shape-sorting toy, the ordinary, productive end of a long day, feeling mildly fatigued in the way she always felt mildly fatigued after a 12-hour shift and attributed to 12-hour shifts. Brix came from the kitchen. He crossed the living room and put himself beside Jessamine. Not unusual, except he pressed against her left side with his full flank, which was not his normal position. He normally sat at her feet. He leaned his weight into her, steady and continuous, and looked at her face. Jessamine registered this peripherally and went back to Zara and the shape sorter. Brix pushed his head into the space between her left arm and her body. He was applying pressure with his skull against her left side, below the armpit. He was not playful. He was not anxious. He was focused in the specific way she had seen him focused exactly 3 times before, and each of those 3 times there had been something happening that required attention. She said his name. He didn't move. He pressed harder. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you are in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. She put her right hand on her left forearm. Her pulse was there at the radial artery, quick and accessible in the automatic way of someone who has taken pulses thousands of times. It was irregular in a way that her professional training sorted immediately into a category. She sat very still. She took her pulse again. It was irregular. It had the specific pattern that 17 years of experience labeled before her conscious mind completed the sentence. She said, "Kwame." She said it in her work voice. He came from the kitchen. She said, "I need you to call 911 and tell them I'm having a cardiac event." She said it with the steadiness of a person who has said similar sentences to other people many times and knows that steadiness is functional. She said, "And take Zara." Kwame took Zara. He called 911. The ambulance arrived in 8 minutes. Dr. Adiz Nwofor, cardiologist at Mercy Regional, reviewed her case the following morning. Jessamine had been in atrial fibrillation, an irregular heart rhythm that occurs when the heart's upper chambers fire chaotically. In someone without her training, the symptoms she had been experiencing, mild fatigue, slight shortness of breath she had attributed to her shift, would likely have been dismissed for another several hours at minimum. The risk associated with prolonged untreated atrial fibrillation includes stroke and cardiac complications. Dr. Nwofor said, "You caught this early." She said it the way good physicians say things that contain more than one meaning. Jessamine said, "I didn't catch it." She told her about Brix. She told her about the left side pressure, the head pressed below the armpit, the specific focus quality that she had learned over 3 years to classify as something requires your attention. Dr. Nwofor was quiet for a moment. Then she said, There is documented evidence that dogs can detect cardiac arrhythmia through subtle changes in body chemistry and movement patterns. Heart rhythm irregularities alter skin conductance, breath chemistry, and micro-movement patterns. A dog in close daily contact with a person learns their baseline at a level of resolution that no wearable device currently achieves. He went to your left side, Dr. Nwolfer said, where the heart is. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. Jessamine came home 2 days later with a medication regimen and a follow-up schedule, and a cardiologist who wanted to see her in 6 weeks. Kwame had Zara in the doorway. Brix was behind them. He greeted her the way he always greeted her. No performance, no drama, just the full body lean against her left side that was apparently both his greeting and, it now turned out, a reading. She put her hand on his head. She had spent 17 years learning to read the signals that other people missed. She had calibrated herself to the specific frequency of emergency and trusted that calibration completely. Brix had read her faster than she had read herself. She sat down on the floor right there in the entryway. He put his head in her lap. She could hear his breathing, steady and even, the breathing of an animal that is exactly where it intends to be. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Zara climbed into her lap on the other side. Jessamine put both arms around them, her daughter on the right and her dog on the left, and sat on the entryway floor for a long time, feeling her heart beat in the steady, corrected rhythm of something that had been wrong and was now being managed. Brix did not move. His eyes were half closed. His breathing was the most even thing in the room. The next story is about a golden retriever who made a toddler laugh for the first time, and what happened 14 months later when that same dog stopped letting the same toddler reach the kitchen counter.